What wasn't good for me is the Celtics taking a 2-point loss to the Houston Rockets. People are going to wake up and see the box score of Dylan Brooks going off for 36 points, 10
Six.
of 15 from three.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the Celtics' strategy to double team Alperen Şengün, which, by the way, speaks
Yes.
volumes of just how good he is, to
Mm-hmm.
double team Şengün in the post, which would leave Dylan Brooks open. And credit to Dylan Brooks, he knocked down the shots. The Celtics stayed in the game. They just lost at the very end. But, me and BJ have spoken about him. Amen Thompson, 33
Yeah.
points on
Yes.
13 of 19 from the field, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal and a block. He had a crazy game, a real breakout game. I think we've been talking about him for a while, but last night's game really put him on the radar of most casual fans around the country as to just how good he is, not as an athlete, but as a basketball player in general. Scott, what do you see from this young gentleman last night in the win over the Celtics?
No question about it. Everybody knows the tremendous athleticism that both the twins have, both A-Man and Asar. But when I watched him as a high school kid, he had a feel and understanding of how to play the game. He played a lot of point guard when I saw him in high school. And so anytime you get a player that athletic who has a feel and understanding of how the game is played, you have the potential making of an outstanding NBA player. It's obvious that he's continued to work on his shooting because that was one of his weaknesses, his perimeter shooting, and I think that will continually get better. He is already one of the elite defenders on the perimeter. And look, let's not sleep on this Houston Rockets team. They are going to be around for a while, not just this season, but seasons to come. And no more evident than last night, to your point, you take away their top scorer in Alfred Sengun, but they have the depth and the talent on the team for other guys to step up. You mentioned Dylan Brooks having this phenomenal game, shooting the ball from the perimeter. We're talking about A-Man having a great game. You've got Fred Van Vliet there. You have Jalen Green. You have a lot of different scoring options on this basketball team. A lot of good young players. This team is going to be a difficult out in the Western Conference, and like I said, they're going to be in contention for years to come because of this elite young talent led by an Amen Thompson.
And what I love about it is we spoke about this with Isaiah Collier. Eamon Thompson is just proof that you don't need to be able to shoot a three to make an impact on the game and be a winning basketball player in the NBA, even though we are in this 3-point era. He's shooting 25% from three on the season. He shot
Mm-hmm.
14% from three last season. I've just done a
Mm-hmm.
breakdown on my YouTube channel that you guys will be able to watch where I break down the entire game and show you really the details of what he was doing. But here's the interesting thing about the Rockets, Scott, is Reed Shepherd, who a lot of people thought would be the best player from this year's draft class. He's not
Mm-hmm.
even getting on the court. He's playing
Right.
G League minutes. And if you're the Houston Rockets now, right, you're
Mm-hmm.
sitting in the upper echelon of the Western Conference. If you're in
Mm-hmm.
the front office of the Houston Rockets, do you look to make some sort of move now to try and go all in on this year, knowing that you've got Amen and you've got Şengün and even Jalen Green is under contract now? Moving forward, you've got your young core solidified there moving forwards. But do you look around the league and see if you can pick up an extra piece that might give you that boost to win a Western Conference where, I don't think there's a clear-cut favorite. OKC are the favorites right now, but they've not proven they can do it in the playoffs. Denver have proven they can do it in the playoffs, but they've had their issues
Mm-hmm.
this season. If you're Houston, are you looking at it like, let's push our chips to the middle of the table already?
Mo, it's always your job to look and try to figure out what you can add to make your team better. Now, with that being said, when you got this young team that is excelling right now in the regular season, you're curious to find out just how far this group can go. So you don't have the necessarily the pressure or urgency to say we've got to do something at the deadline to improve our team. Now, if something presents itself and you feel like it is going to improve you and it doesn't disrupt your locker room, let me state that the most important thing too when you're building a team like this, especially centered around a lot of good young talent, and my assumption, not being there every day, but I'm watching Ime Udoka's leadership, how this team plays. This team must have a very solid locker room right now. And what you don't want to do is disrupt that chemistry or bring any personality in that may disrupt that personality. So that's what you're also going to be looking for. So you got to be very prudent in what you decide to do in terms of adding or not adding, because it's not only has to do with the talent of the player that you're bringing in, but equally as important, it is the character, personality, and fit with the rest of the group. And that's what they obviously know better than I do, because I'm not there. But outside looking in, again, you've got to be prudent in what you do and preserve the sanctity of that locker room.
Now, let me ask you this. I'm going to float an idea to you. Fred VanVleet is on contract for 43 million this year. He has a 45 million team option next year, right? He's already 30 years old. You spoke about Amen playing a lot of point guard in high school, right? If there was a deal out there where you could go and get a Cam Johnson from the Brooklyn Nets, right? The Nets would like this move because then they can decline the team option for VanVleet and just take that salary off their books. If you then have Amen starting, he's played games starting at the 4, but if you start him at the 1 and you add Cam Johnson, who's a good defender, a great 3-point shooter, you add him to this group. What do you think about that?
Well, long term, I like it. In the short term, what you're not sure of, can Amen handle being the point guard full time right today without disrupting the rhythm of this team right now?
Yeah.
And then also, who's going to back him up? We talked about Reed Shepherd, who is not getting many minutes right now. He would be the odds-on favorite for that. Is he ready to assume regular minutes night in and night out when you got a team that's sitting second place in the Western Conference, and you know the players in that locker room are feeling like, okay, let's make a deep run in the playoffs. I know the coach, Ime Udoka, is doing that. So you don't want to make a rash decision, and I know that's, coming in the offseason. Maybe you wait till the offseason. Now, Cam Johnson may be gone by that time, but maybe there's another player that you look into. But I'm sure they would be a little bit hesitant of doing that right now and just totally giving the reins to him at the point position, unless, again, if they're seeing it in a way that they're super confident in it, and then they're super confident that they have the backup covered, then maybe they would go for it. But my guess is right now they would hold off on doing that and keep the veteran.
Yeah, because Freddie's got the experience. He's a champion.
Yes.
I'm sure he's a key piece to that locker room.
And that's
obviously
important.
with the point guard duties, you have Jalen Green, who likes to have the ball in his hands a lot. So that would be that. But put in Thompson at the 1 would make your team have staggering size in terms of
no
the
question.
defensive end, the switchability on the defensive end. You couldn't run a 1-5 pick and roll against them because Thompson, you saw him block Evan Mobley the other day. Like, how many guys that are wing players could block Evan Mobley on a post up? A couple games before, he blocks Ja Morant on a drive. Even when he's not an on-ball defender, as a weak side defender, he's got fantastic instincts on blocking those shots as well.
And Mo, and we talked about this, and you hear our great friend BJ Armstrong say this all the time, how important it is to have a guard who can get downhill. And when you talk about a point guard like that with that kind of size, he can get where he needs to go on the court. Amen, Thompson. Now, you also mentioned Jalen Green, who I don't think is a point guard, but he also can get downhill off the dribble. He's athletic, crafty with the ball. So the size that they could present in the backcourt would be difficult for a lot of teams that didn't have that kind of size to match up with come playoff time. So to me, I would be looking at exploring that in the long term, because from a matchup standpoint, he would be a nightmare most nights in. And especially the more he improves his ability to shoot the perimeter shot, the more confidence he gains in that, the more difficult he's going to be to defend.